Today I played a rag called Udayana Chandrika or Shuddha Dhanasi. It's called by both names, depending on the style of rendition. Today I believe it was more of Udayana Chandrika because a lot of gamakas happen. Of course, there are a few missed notes as well. I'm really sorry about it. But yeah, I started with Alapna and then rendition style called Tanam, and then I played a Pallavi from a very old composition of Swami Kirtipradananda. It was called Narayana. Today is Krishna Janmashtami, so I thought it would be appropriate to play something connected with Krishna, Krishna Medhananda. So I played this tune called Medhananda. This was composed in the 15th century because that was when he was around. So it's a very old composition. It's a Kannada style now. I hope I did a good job. I'm not sure. But yeah, for those of you that don't know the instrument, it's called the veena. It's from the south of India, and it has a very, very, very long history. It was first the evidence of the first evidence of the instrument in literature has been found in 500 BC, I think, probably Natya Shastra, Bharata's Natya Shastra or something like that. I'm not sure. Maybe I'll be able to tell you next time. But yeah, it's a very old instrument, mostly used in Carnatic music, and this sort of defines what Carnatic music is all about. This and the voice. So this instrument is supposed to emulate the voice modulations and inflections that we use in Carnatic music, called gamakas. So this instrument is supposed to emulate that perfectly, and some things can be done on the instrument that can't be done on the voice, and vice versa. So yeah, this remains at the top of Carnatic music instruments to this day. So and I'm very glad. I feel I'm blessed to be able to play that. Thank you very much.
Thank you again. Did anybody happen to read anything about the veena in your reading today? Anybody? No. Okay. All right. So we want people to be able to share a little bit about the gospel or about something they read, and we're going to let Swami Medhananda kick it off so he can sort of break the ice and give you a short talk. Swami Medhananda?
Om Tava Kathamritam Tapta Jivanam Kavibiriditam Kalmashapaham Shravanamangalam Srimadatam Bhuviganantiye Bhurida Janaha. Good afternoon, everyone. So nice to see all of you. We had such a joyous morning today, reading the entirety of the Gospel of Sri Ramakrishna from cover to cover. This is a rare opportunity, so instead of just a bland old Labor Day, we read the Gospel. The Gospel, it's a priceless treasure of a book. It's my favorite book, bar none. And one of the things I love about it is that it's not just a compilation of Sri Ramakrishna's teachings. We have many books, spiritual books in the world's spiritual literature that are a compilation of great saints' teachings, the teachings of avatars, incarnations, but this is something different. It's something more than that. What's that something more? I was in Mysuru for about 1.5 years, just before I came here to Hollywood. The head of Mysuru, his name is Muktidanandaji, and I attended a talk of his on the gospel, and he used a beautiful Sanskrit word to explain what's so special about the gospel. He said, Sri Ramakrishna Sannidhya Sadhana. Sri Ramakrishna Sannidhya Sadhana. It means by reading the gospel, you are directly practicing the presence or practicing being in the presence of Sri Ramakrishna. That's what's unique about it. Because M was highly educated, and in fact, Sri Ramakrishna groomed him to be a diary writer from a very young age. At about the age of 12, he started writing, just keeping a journal. And he was extremely meticulous as an observer. So when he first started visiting Sri Ramakrishna, he took notes after every visit with exact details, dates, who was in the room at the time, what did he look like, what was he wearing, what were other people doing, what were they wearing, everything down to the last detail. Because of that, when we read the gospel, something extraordinary happens. When we read with concentration, we really feel that we're in the room with him. Maybe we've never been to Dakshineshwar. We, of course, have not had the opportunity to meet him in person. But by reading the gospel, we really feel like we're in his presence, in his living presence. That's an extraordinary thing. And I don't think that any other document I've ever read in the world spiritual literature matches that, in that ability to bring you into the presence of Sri Ramakrishna. So this is something extremely unique that we can all benefit from. You know, many of us are initiated, and so we're given a Ramakrishna mantra. We do our japa. Sometimes it feels mechanical. Most of us have a lot of difficulty concentrating on Sri Ramakrishna in the heart. This is, by reading the gospel, we get the same benefit actually in a certain way. Because just by reading the gospel with attention, we really directly practice the presence of Sri Ramakrishna in our hearts. So just like, I keep using the phrase, but of course you probably know that Brother Lawrence wrote, he didn't write a book, but it's his teachings on practicing the presence of God. A great Christian saint. In fact, in the Gita, chapter 2, Arjuna, the first question out of his mouth in chapter 2, he says, Sthita prajna saka bhasha samadhisthasta keshava sthita dihi kim prabhasheta kim asita vrajeta kim. Arjuna asks, how does a realized soul behave? How does that person talk? How does that person walk? How does that person sit, walk, these kinds of things, ordinary things. The interesting thing is, for the remainder of chapter 2, Krishna gives a long answer. And the answer reads kind of like a non sequitur, because he doesn't explain any of the external signs, any of the external characteristics of a realized soul. Not one. You point to one. The first sloka in his answer, Prajahati yada kaman sarvan patmanogatan atmanyevatmana tushta sthita prajnasadochyate. He says, you want to know what the realized soul is? It's the person who has completely eradicated all desires from his heart or her heart. So the whole answer is given, that's why I say it's kind of non sequitur. Arjuna is saying, what is, from the outside, what does a realized soul look like? How does he walk, talk, and this and that? Krishna says, you're barking up the wrong tree. The only characteristics of a realized soul are internal. Now, coming to the gospel. I sometimes think that the gospel is a kind of alternative answer to Arjuna's question. Not that he disagrees with Krishna, of course he agrees that the ultimate characteristics of a realized soul have to be internal. Total desirelessness. Holy Mother used to say nirvashana. But at the same time, another really unique dimension of the gospel of Sri Ramakrishna is that you see how a realized soul behaves at an external level. You see how Sri Ramakrishna talks. You see how Sri Ramakrishna walks, literally. There's one beautiful description when M is seeing Sri Ramakrishna pacing back and forth in the Nat Mandir, in the veranda. And he says he's walking like a lion, completely free, king of the jungle. So these are very unique things. I mean, this is a very unique contribution to the world's spiritual literature. Sometimes people ask me, what are your 2 desert island books? If you're stranded on a desert island and you can only keep with you 2 books, what would they be? And I say, without hesitation, Bhagavad Gita and the Gospel of Sri Ramakrishna. And in fact, there are very deep similarities between these 2 books. And one of the first to notice these similarities was none other than Swami Vivekananda. And he said, this is not a coincidence. He said, that very Lord who came in the form of Krishna in a previous age and gave us the message of the Bhagavad Gita, that same Lord has come in this present age in the body of Sri Ramakrishna. And in the time of the Bhagavad Gita, when Krishna came, he had to harmonize all sorts of warring sects and philosophies and spiritual practices, many things. Swami Vivekananda says, Sri Ramakrishna came to finish the job. Because since then, religious conflict, violence, pettiness, one-sidedness, fanaticism has just multiplied exponentially. And it's a global scale at this point. It's not just about Hinduism in India, it's about the entire world. How much blood has been shed. in the name of religion. Sri Ramakrishna came to end these disputes once and for all. So there's a deep similarity between the Bhagavad Gita and Sri Ramakrishna's teachings. You'll find that at the end of every chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, there's a colophon. When you recite the Gita in Sanskrit, traditionally, you have to recite the colophon at the end. Om Tat Saditi Srimad Bhagavad Gita Su Upanishadsu Brahma Vidyayam Yoga Shastre, and so on and so forth. You give the title of the chapter and you say, what is the Gita? The Gita is Brahma Vidya and Yoga Shastra. It teaches the highest knowledge of Brahman, the highest spiritual and philosophical teachings. But it's equally Yoga Shastra. It's equally a practical spiritual manual. And one can say exactly the same thing about the Gospel of Sri Ramakrishna. On the one hand, it gives us the highest Brahma Vidya. You just open to a random page, you'll find the highest philosophy. Sri Ramakrishna, who is uneducated, but speaking the highest philosophical truths. And in the same breath, coming down to earth, giving us very practical tips about spiritual practice. And so this is another deep commonality, I think, between the Bhagavad Gita and the Gospel of Sri Ramakrishna. On the one hand, it's full of philosophical and spiritual teachings of the highest caliber. And at the same time, it's extremely down to earth. It gives us very simple, practical advice that we can carry out on a daily basis. And many people, I find this, in our tradition and other traditions, spiritual aspirants, they find that they feel some kind of conflict between philosophical teachings on the one hand and sadhana on the other, spiritual practice. And they say, I just want to focus on sadhana. I don't care about philosophy. I've heard this many times. I get it a lot because I'm a philosopher and a monk at the same time. And I like talking about philosophy. And they say, why do you talk so much about philosophy? Didn't Sri Ramakrishna say why bother to count the leaves on the mango tree? Just you come to eat the mangoes. The thing is, what both these scriptures teach us, the Bhagavad Gita and the Gospel of Sri Ramakrishna, is that these two things are inextricably intertwined. You cannot separate the philosophical and spiritual teachings from the spiritual practice. This is something that we have to understand. I'll give you one example. One striking thing about both the Bhagavad Gita and the Gospel of Sri Ramakrishna. If you read both these texts from cover to cover, what you'll find is one of the keynotes, might be surprising, is the doctrine of the three gunas. Bhagavad Gita, it's there in chapter 14, chapter 17, chapter 18, all over the place. In the Gospel of Sri Ramakrishna, it comes up on almost every page. He's always talking about the gunas. Sri Ramakrishna, of course, he had read the Gita, not literally read, but it was read out to him, and he knew the Gita very well. But he would make them very practical. I'll just give you an example. So the gunas, on the one hand, it's a deep philosophical doctrine that can be traced back to Sankhya philosophy. So I like to translate the term guna as energy rather than qualities. The standard translation is quality, but I think energy is better in some ways. There are three basic energies. This is all, you can say it's high philosophy in a way. Tamas, the energy of tamas, makes us feel lazy, makes us procrastinate, makes us sleepy, not want to do anything, not want to get out of bed. Rajas, that makes us restless, full of desires, full of ambitions. I want to be up and doing this and that. And sattva makes us calm, makes us peaceful, makes our mind drawn inward. So these are the three gunas. That's all theory. But what does Bhagavad Gita do? It then it categorizes different kinds of human behavior on the basis of these three gunas. And Sri Ramakrishna does exactly the same thing. And I'll just give you a couple of examples, and then I'll leave you guys with that. So, for instance, Sri Ramakrishna says, there are three kinds of bhakta. He says the sattvika bhakta is somebody who is very humble, who is not at all interested in kind of showing off his spirituality. So in the middle of the night, when everybody else is sleeping, and he's in his mosquito net, and in India, mosquito nets are a must in most places, he's quietly doing his spiritual practice all night without making a peep. Nobody knows it. They think that he's sleeping. He wakes up late because he's up all night doing his sadhana. They might criticize him for being a lazy bum, this, that. And he quietly listens and that's the sattvika bhakta, he says. No external show whatsoever. And by contrast, he says, the rajasika bhakta is the one who, in the middle of an assembly like this, will get up and he gives such beautiful details, Sri Ramakrishna, because he's a great storyteller. So let's say he's wearing this big japamala, a necklace of rosary beads, strewn with gems, to attract even more attention. Look at how pious I am. And he prays very loudly in public. And looking at the corner of his eye to make sure that people are watching him. Look at how religious and pious and spiritual I am. So this is just one example, and the Gita is full of these too. So the theory of the three gunas is inseparable from the practice. Without knowing the basic theory, you don't see. Now, once you understand both, the theory of the three gunas, then we can appreciate what Sri Ramakrishna is saying. We can catch ourselves in the act. We might be doing a lot of meditation and japa, and then suddenly this teaching of Sri Ramakrishna's will ring a bell and we'll say, wait a minute, but when I sit, isn't one part of my mind thinking about what, like for instance, we have a head Swami, so maybe the head Swami is watching me, how long I sit there, so I want to impress him. And so let me try to sit longer. Again, that becomes Rajasika sadhana, you see. So you have to be, this is a way of, it's a very good way of engaging in deep self-analysis. Using these three gunas, understanding the philosophy, and then putting it into practice in our daily lives, we can catch our egos in the act and thereby make spiritual progress. That's just one of many, many, many examples. Swami Vivekananda himself said, one can write shelves of books on any one of Sri Ramakrishna's teachings. Okay, I'll leave you with that. Thank you.
All right, you don't need to have such a wonderful discourse as that. Was absolutely marvelous, but if everybody, we just want your tiny gem of a thought. So the outstanding sentence or your favorite poem or your favorite song that you ran across in the gospel, something that you kind of like to have stick with you for a while in your memory. Does anybody have something they would like to share?
I'm rescuing you from having to follow Medhananda ji. Pranam Maharaj, Pranam Swamiji. So Indian parents love it when you're spiritual, but not that spiritual, as you know. So the part of the gospel that I was reading concerns Sri Ramakrishna being Dvija's lawyer with Dvija's father. So this is in August 1885. So Dvija's father has visited after a long time Dukkaneshwar. And Sri Ramakrishna is trying to convince his father to be okay with Dvija visiting him often. It's a very sweet scene because he's telling the father, the son is Atmaja and his quality shines on your quality. If he comes here, he'll become increasingly spiritual. Then he'll understand what you are. And he's really buttering this father up. And then there's a moment where he's sitting on the cot and then he comes down a level. From the cot, he comes and sits on the floor and he touches Dvija's father. And a little later in that same section, Mahima Chakravarti is there, and he's giving wonderful discourses from anecdotal experience of the Mahavayu, Kundalini Shakti, Shushumna, and Mahima Chakravarti, as you know, is an intellect of sorts. Suddenly, in the middle of this discourse, Sri Ramakrishna again comes down from the cot and touches Mahima Chakravarti and says, what will you get from mere reading, mere scholarship? So these two instances of Thakur coming down remind me often of Ramanuja's metaphor of the elephant. He says, God is Bhagavan, full of the Bhaga, so infinitely auspicious, impossible to comprehend. What measly mind can, though but a dwarf, it would strive to make a captive of the moon. But the beauty of this elephant is that from time to time it kneels. And Ramanuja says it kneels in various ways. It kneels as the avatara, like Jesus, etc. It kneels as the archana, as an image imbued with God's presence. And so this kneeling, this descent of the Lord, I think it's so beautifully captured in Master's coming down from the cot. So that really struck me. And then you get this beautiful, just moment by moment, is acting these things out. At the very end of that section, you get this impression that as much as I'm seeking God, God is seeking me, how restless Thakur is pursuing me. I'm thinking the more I seek him, the more he seeks me. It brings to mind the musk in the deer's navel. I was like, how is it I'm running over here, he's running over there? Perhaps the bhakta and the beloved are one same reality seeking itself, The thought comes, and at the very end of the section, Sri Ramakrishna drops that mind-blowing Jini Brahma Tini Shakti Tini Ma, In one fell swoop, he says, exactly. Of course, the same reality is seeking itself, for the formless is inseparable from its power, and that power is what we call God. So I'm seeking God, God is seeking me, and that's just the coming down of the cot. So beautiful. So
Oops. All right, so who else would like to share their thoughts? Did anyone jot down a favorite quote, favorite passage, something to meditate on? Good.
Hello, everyone. My name's my name's Kiran, and so I just read this incident that I had never, well, I'm not there yet on my own reading of the Gospel, so it was really nice. And this was already after the Master's passing on Saturday, May 7, 1887. And there was kind of like a whole kind of argument going on with the brothers, because Prasanna had left the monastery for an unknown destination when Naren was absent. And then when Naren heard that Prasanna had left the monastery, he went to ask Rakal, like, why he allowed him to go. And then, because also Rakal back then, he was talking a lot about going away to pilgrimages, and he really wanted, like, he had this desire to go to the Narmada. And then, so Rakal was talking with Narendra, and he says, we have achieved nothing by staying here. The Master always exhorted us to realize God. Have we succeeded? Let us go to the Narmada. And then Narendra says, what will you achieve by wandering about? Can one ever attain jnana that you are talking about it so much? And then a devotee like interjects and he says, then why have you renounced the world? And then Swamiji says, must we live with Shyam because we have not seen Ram? Must we go on begetting children because we have not realized God? What are you talking about? And to me, well, I mean, I don't know, I love this passage just because I think it just has so much of this kind of like power to continue, like to put in the effort, whether you have succeeded or not. Like, it doesn't matter. I think to me that was kind of like more renunciation in like an internal way rather than just renouncing on, like, you know, just going away or something, but like, you know, just continuing the struggle, like, you know, endlessly almost, just because you really want to realize God. And then interestingly also I read another passage like when the Master was leaving, and in that passage, I like that he says, as long as a man feels that God is there, he's ignorant, but he attains knowledge when he feels that God is here. So I thought that was kind of like pretty connected, because you're not going away anywhere. Like, you're not seeing God when you go to the mountain cave or somewhere else. Like, it's just always here, even though we're completely ignorant. And in that one passage, he talks about this really funny, at least to me, analogy, where he mentions that a man like really liked smoking, and so he's kind of like trying to light up his tobacco, and he wants to get some charcoal, like somebody to like help him fire up his charcoal, and so he's like going about trying to find somebody, and then he's like knocking and knocking and knocking and knocking, and then someone finally opens, and then he, you know, the man that opens the door for him, he's like, you know, like, what an interesting person you are, that you're like, you know, kind of like knocking about, you know, just to get your charcoal on, and you have a lighted lantern in your hand. So, yeah, that's us. Anyways, thank you.
Oh, I thought we had another volunteer. We don't. Okay. It's so nice to see the big crowd. We haven't had these crowds since before pandemic, so it's really wonderful to see you. Thank you. Come on forward.
Hello, my name is Rama, and I'm from San Diego and very happy to have participated. Of course, I like food, so the first one involves food. God alone is real. All else is a two-day existence. The world is like a pickled hog plum. One craves for it, but it's only skin and pit and then gives you colic. Now, if anyone can explain to me why one would crave that, please let me know later on. The world is a mix of sand and sugar. Like an ant, disregard the sand and eat the sugar. And then I always like waves and ocean teachings. I don't know. I kind of get that a wave and an ocean are different but the same. Okay, so here's one in that genre. Take the case of the infinite ocean. There is no limit to its water. Suppose a pot is immersed in it. There is water both inside and outside the pot. The jnani sees that both inside and outside there is nothing but Paramatman. Then what is this pot? It is I consciousness. Because of the pot, the water appears to be divided into two parts. Because of the pot, you seem to perceive an inside and an outside. One feels that way as long as the pot of I exists. When the I disappears, what is remains. That cannot be described in words.
All right, next person who'd like to share. You see, these events are so nice. These are some of the times we get to really interact with each other. So,
Namaste, Pranam Swamiji. My name is Venkatesh. This was Appendix A, Keshav Dakshineshwar, Saturday, January 1st, 1881. It coincides well with the music theme. We heard Veena. In this, the master says, when you have 7 notes, why not use all the 7 notes? And he gives the example of, worship through Santa Bhava, Dasya Bhava, Vatsale Bhava, and Madhura Bhava. The examples are like, Hanuman, example of Dasya Bhava, Vatsalya is like mother, and Madhura Bhava is, Radha and Krishna. So I thought I'll sharing that with you just now. We heard beautiful music. Another thing which I found it very interesting, maybe Swamiji can describe me better. I know M took very good notes, but this was actually at the Star Theatre. This is when he goes to see the play, but every dialogue in the play is recorded. I mean, that seems very amazing to me. I know he recorded everything, whatever Swami, Sri Ramakrishna said and whatever other people said, but even in the play, what happened in the play is recorded, so which is very amazing to me. So I thought it's very interesting to share. Then there was another one where, how you have to follow whatever your guru says. I had heard about a different story, but this part I had not read. This is where a woman brings small amount of milk to some naming ceremony, and the guru becomes mad and says, go drown yourself. And she follows her guru's commands, and she literally tries to drown her. And Bhagavan appears and gives her a pot of curds, the infinite pot of curds, what we call Akshaya Patra. And she goes back and gives it to the guru, and guru is impressed and comes back, and guru wants to see the god, and then the god doesn't appear for the guru, and the woman prays, and then God appears for the guru also. So I had not heard about this story, so it was a good opportunity for me to hear this story. So those are the things I want to share.
Oh, and Brahma reminded me she's coming from San Diego, but we have an opportunity to go to San Diego next week. It'll be Krishna Puja, so be sure to take advantage of visiting the San Diego Center then. Do we have anybody else that wants to share? Who else jotted something down. Yes, please.
Hello, everyone. My name is Adya, and thank you, Swamiji, for this opportunity for me to share what I read. It was really hard to pick just a few things to share today because, like, every line can be picked apart, and so many volumes can be written about every single thing that's said in the gospel. But something that really stood out to me was how Sri Ramakrishna, like most of us struggle to reach, samadhi or higher states of consciousness. But for Sri Ramakrishna, it was so difficult to come down from samadhi and stay in our plane of existence. So that really stood out to me. And the first section that I read was, I think, when Sri Ramakrishna was receiving treatment for his illness, and they feared that him going into a state of samadhi might worsen his physical condition, but I don't think he cared about that. But yeah, there is a part where he talks about how knowledge is like a thorn used to remove another thorn of ignorance, but the second thorn cannot be left behind. I'd heard of this multiple times, but I got to really read it today again in the gospel, and that was really interesting, of how at the end you can't even hold on to that knowledge that you've gained, because that becomes another thing that feeds your ego and comes between realizing the ultimate truth. And then he talks about how Brahman is beyond knowledge, beyond ignorance, beyond cleanliness, beyond uncleanliness, beyond everything, all dualities we can imagine. So the ultimate, he uses this really wonderful word called Nitya Shuddha Bodha Rupam. I don't know if my pronunciation is accurate, but it means eternal, ever pure, untouched consciousness. So consciousness, or the Brahman, is the only thing that's untouched by anything in this world. So I think the ultimate knowledge or ultimate learning you can have is having sarvatra samadarshana, or like having uniform vision. You don't discriminate anything as something you're really attracted to or something you hate. You're minimizing your raga dvesha. So those were some of the things that I'd like to share. And again, sharing these things, I obviously won't be capturing it in the in any way. It's hard to objectify. You can't objectify the ultimate truth, but I'm really grateful that I could share these few words today. Thank you.
All right. So I'm sure there must be someone else out there.
Namaste. Thank you. Good afternoon. My name is Brigitte. Let's see. I read from later in the Gospel, starting from page 800. Unfortunately, I didn't write down the date, and I'm rather new to reading the Gospel. But what I did realize is that, like has been mentioned already, we only read 10 pages, but those 10 pages were so full. Like I wanted to stop after reading the one little book because, I didn't want to take in any more. I had to think about everything in there. So the scene, from what I read, is it was during a visit to Nanda Bose's house. And I do follow the gospel, but mostly I listen online. So this is really the first time I've actually read the text, and I'm realizing how powerful it is. So of course I want to read it. Let's see. Okay. During these 10 pages, Sri Ramakrishna visited 3 households in the evening. It started at Nanda Bose's house, and so I'm getting the idea that this is a very large, fancy house. although I'm not so familiar with who Nanda Bose is. And what else I want to say is that I'm starting to follow Swami Medhananda's Bhagavad Gita class in light of Sri Ramakrishna. So as I was reading, I think I found some text evidence to go along with the question that he asked in his last class on how we could explain or describe Sri Ramakrishna's spiritual path. I don't know how else to say. But so anyway, I think in these 10 pages, it shows such a contrast. It shows a contrast in how Sri Ramakrishna reacted, I guess, or acted among the people he was visiting. So I thought that was interesting. So at Nanda Bose's house, which was very fancy and large, he remarked what a large house it was. Let's see. Oh, I have a dialogue. So at Nanda Bose's house, Sri Ramakrishna did not partake of the latel leaf that everybody else was eating. And so Nanda asks, why didn't you eat the latel leaf? Everything else you did was proper. This alone seems to be otherwise. And the master answers, before I eat anything, I offer it to God. It is a notion of mine. Nanda replies, but the betel leaf would have gone to God all the same. The master says, there is the path of jnana, and there is also the path of bhakti. According to the jnani, everything can be eaten by applying the knowledge of Brahman, but the follower of bhakti keeps a little distinction. Oops, that's all I wrote. And so he's implying, he wanted to keep that distinction, right? So he doesn't say it, but he's following a bhakti practice there. And then after, and that was not the only thing he didn't partake of. He didn't partake of, he was offered a smoke, which he forewent. He refused that, and and also the washing his fingers in the brass pot. He didn't want that. He's remarked that such things are for Rajasic people. So I guess he had pour water on his fingers outside with I think it was outside with just a jug, a regular jug. Oh, and he made a funny comment to, I guess, the host of the house, who said, you need to wash your fingers, even though Sri Ramakrishna already was fully aware of that. And he just responded, oh, do I? Or something. Anyway, it was kind of a funny little exchange, I thought. So anyway, that was kind of his behavior there at the fancy household. And then after that, he visited a Brahmini who had just lost a daughter. And she was very much wanting to see Sri Ramakrishna. So he went there, and everybody there was so full of devotion and joy and love for Sri Ramakrishna, and especially the Brahmini, who was just so overjoyed and said she could forget about even her daughter now that Sri Ramakrishna was there. And and so I think 2 times Sri Ramakrishna mentioned that these are such good people. These are good people. And together with one of the Brahmini, there was sisters, but together they went to another household the same evening. The same reaction from the devotees there. And there he came inside and allowed them to take the dust off his feet. And again remarked, these are the good people, or these are good people, when the Brahmini was sort of halfway apologizing for her brother, I guess, who was at his feet, and she called him a fool or something of that nature, but Sri Ramakrishna said, oh no, he's good people. So anyway, his reaction towards the people full of devotion and the bhaktis I thought showed an interesting contrast from Sri Ramakrishna. That's all I have. So, thank you. Okay.
And of course, we should be reminded that you're always welcome to come on Wednesdays or join us online, because we have a gospel class every Wednesday taught by various swamis. And of course, many people have a practice of just reading a page or two every night. And so that's another way. And if you don't want to read it yourself, you can have your Kindle or your e-reader or something read it to you if you get used to it pronouncing things kind of funny. That's an easy way to do it. You can do it in the car, too. I do a lot of that. I have so much driving to do that I frequently listen to things in the car with my Kindle. So we still have a little time. Who else would like to share? Anybody?
Pranam Swamis, dear friends. There were 3 different themes that came up in the books I read. One of them was Sri Ramakrishna revealing about himself, different facets, during the time when he was in Kasipur garden. I thought these were great for meditation, so I'm just going to read a few references he made about himself. I see that all things, everything that exists, have come from this. This he usually refers to his body. He asks Narendra by a sign, "What did you understand?" Narendra, "All created objects have come from you." Later, Sri Ramakrishna is looking at the devotees in the room tenderly. Then he places his hand on his heart. He is about to speak. Master to Narendra and the others. There are 2 persons in this. One, the Divine Mother. He pauses. The devotees eagerly look at him to hear what he will say next. Master, yes, one is she, and the other is her devotee. Like Swami, you were saying, even to read the way M describes, it gives more intensity to what Sri Ramakrishna is saying. So it's very touching, especially when Sri Ramakrishna was not able to speak because of the cancer, these pauses and how he uses signs. It was very touching. Later, he says, the devotees are asking Rakal, "Please speak to God that he may preserve your body some more time." Master, that depends on God's will. Narendra, your will and God's will have become one. Sri Ramakrishna remains silent. He appears to be thinking about something. Master, to Narendra, Rakal and the others, and nothing will happen if I speak to God. Now I see that I and the mother have become one. Little while later, he felt a little better and said to them, the devotees, "The illness is of the body, that is as it should be. I see that the body is made of the 5 elements." Turning to Girish, he said, "I am seeing many forms of God. Among them I find this one also," meaning his own form. This came up in another section earlier in 1884, I think. Their master is saying, "If you ever see me instructing you," this is when he asks M, "Do you have any dreams about me?" And then M says, "Yes, I have a lot of dreams." And then he asks, "What do you see? Do you see me instructing you?" And then he says this, "If you ever see me instructing you in dream, that is, then know that it is Sachidananda himself that does so." So those were a few compilation of things about himself that I really liked. another separate point that came up I really liked was he's talking to Vijay, and Vijay has differences with the original Brahmo Samaj, so he's telling to Vijay, I understand that they have been finding fault with you for mixing with those who believe in God with form. Is that true? He who is a devotee of God must have an understanding that cannot be shaken under any conditions. He must be like an anvil, like the anvil in a blacksmith's shop. It is constantly being struck by the hammer, still it is unshaken. Bad people may abuse you very much and speak ill of you, but you must bear with them all if you sincerely seek God. So I thought it was a nice instruction of how to have a firm faith. Thank you all.
Anyone else? Any other strong and fearless people?
I'm strong and fearless.
Pranam Swamiji. Swamiji always put me on light and brings me trouble. So thank you, thank you. To the lighter note, I came a little late today, and I wasn't sure that if there will be any book for me to read. But guess what? The book I found, it is Thakur talking to Ishan. And Ishan went where? In my Banaras. So I was so happy to read the very first line where it mentioned the Thakur and Banaras. I'm born and brought up in Banaras. And then he was asking Ishan that, have you met Dayanandaji? I don't know exactly who is Dayanandaji, but he mentioned in one line that Dayanandaji was waiting like a chatok pakhi. There is a bird who waits for the special drop of rain. That's the only drop of rain that birds drink, and he doesn't drink any other water. So Dayanandaji was waiting like a chatok pakhi for Keshav to meet. So, those are the few sentences reminding me my Banaras. And another place he said that in Banaras, the children danced for rain. So it is so true. From our home roof, there is a big pipe comes, and a lot of gush of water comes when it's rained. And children in the neighborhood, some are naked, some with maybe a short, they really come and dance for rain to come. So I was remembering on those beautiful days of my early childhood. And there is a lot, as many people mentioned, every line has so much. You can write a whole Mahabharata on every line of the gospel, probably. And singing, every few lines, after every few sentences, he sings songs, and that just fills my heart. So I will end with one of the songs he was singing, if I can sing. Shakoli tomari ichha moi tara tumi tomar kormo tumi koro ma loke bole kori ami shakoli tomari ichha.
Hi, my name is Narandana. So I really loved what you said about only wanting to read one book, because I only wanted to read one page, the very first page, and I already was weeping. I don't know why that comes over me every time I'm here, but that's okay. So it was Ramakrishna's birthday, and everybody had left, and he was talking to M about Narendra's voice and his singing, and he said, doesn't he have a sweet voice? And he said, yes. And he said, the song beginning with In dense darkness is particularly beautiful. And the master said, you're right. That song has deep meaning. Part of my mind is still drawn to it. And M said, yes, sir. And the master said, meditation in darkness is prescribed in the Tantra. And then he starts singing, and he has to hold on to Girish Ghosh. And he says, is Kali, my mother, really dark, really black? The naked one, the blackest hue, lights the lotus of the heart. And he goes on and he's singing, and and then he starts talking about how bhakti is the only thing that we need. And it just reminded me of how when we're just in life and it's so hard and thick and we don't have, or we're so far away from the love of God, the bhakti, like that for any of us, even somebody who's going to cry when I first read it, it feels like these hard and solid and dark-hued things in life, right? But the closer we get to it, for me, the closer I get, not in actual distance, right? But in my own realization, my own discovery or unveiling, the closer it gets, the lighter it gets. Like her hue is not dark, it's not black, it's pure, and it sparkles when I stare at my guru, and it lights up everything within me and then everything outside of me. But only the closer I get and the more I feel filled with the love of the divine. And so I just thought, it just really moved me. So thank you.
Thank you. No, just like the guru in the pot of curd, he had to learn from his disciple. We learn from all of you. So it's such a joy to have you all sharing. Anybody else like to share something with us? Oh, very good.
Hari Om. Pranams to all teachers, swamins, and fellow lay practitioners. My name is Keshav. The quote I wanted to share with the congregation today was from page 999, I believe. How are we to know that God is kind? The Vedas say, that which is thy compassionate face. John Stuart Mill said the same thing. He said, how much kindness must he have who has implanted kindness in the hearts of men? The master used to say, faith is the one essential thing, Faith is the one essential thing. God exists. He's very near us. Through faith alone, one sees him. Thank you for letting me share.
Right. I think it's probably time for us to continue now. We'd like to ask our Swami from Houston, Kirtipradananda, to come and share some words about the gospel. We're so glad that he could come be with us on this day. He has to go back to Houston tomorrow, so we're going to grab him while we can.
Om Sarvadharma Sthapakastvam Sarvadharma Swarupakaha Acharyanam Mahacharyo Ramakrishna Yate Namaha. So very good afternoon to everybody. Right from the morning, we had a very nice time on this Labor Day, reading the Gospel of Sri Ramakrishna collectively, and a very fruitful discussion towards the end. So I'd like to share with you all some other aspects of the gospel which is not there in the gospel per se. So the Gospel of Sri Ramakrishna is unique for reasons more than one. It is perhaps the only book in the world that gives the teachings of a prophet that was recorded almost verbatim with stenographic accuracy. Sri Ramakrishna in his divine Leela, as it were, it seems, brought Master Mashai, that is M, with him to record his utterances so that it can be beneficial to humanity at large. It is surprising that there were a few others also who tried to take notes on what the Master was uttering. A prominent among them was Swami Shivananda, the second president of the order. He used to attentively notice what the Master is telling, then he used to go and write secretly. This was not known to all. But Sri Ramakrishna called him and told, this job is not for you. For this, a separate person is there. So, as it were, he brought Naren from the Saptarishi to do his work. He also brought M for precisely this purpose, recording of the gospel. And another thing, this Gospel of Sri Ramakrishna is written in a way where M is totally absent in the book. If you see the teachings of Socrates by Plato, Plato is all over the book. Perhaps it's more of Plato than the Socrates. But here, M is totally, he's taken a back seat. Even he doesn't write his full name, he writes M. Sometimes Mani Mohan, some pseudonames he uses. He prefers to remain in the back seat. So this is another beauty of this gospel. Now, Sri Ramakrishna was Sadananda, Ananda Sarupa. Pages after pages in gospel, when you read the explanation, Sri Ramakrishna is smiling. He's in bliss. And that bliss is very contagious. As a matter of fact, when M met Sri Ramakrishna, he was not in the best frame of his mind. Actually, he had some domestic problems. His father married a second time, and there was a lack of peace at home. It went to such an extent that he was contemplating for suicide. In fact, one night, he was about to start from his home to carry out that act, but his wife, seeing his body language and the way he was moving about, understood that something is wrong somewhere. She started following him. So because of that, he could not attempt it on that particular day. Then after a few days, he moved to his sister's house, which is at Baranagar, which is a place closer to Dakshineshwar. So from there, as it is mentioned in the gospel, with his friend Sidhu, he went actually in search of some temple gardens, because he was not in a good frame of mind. So in the evenings he would go out, and this garden, they say garden hopping. This one, that one. So during that phase, they came to Dakshineshwar. So when he came to Dakshineshwar, talked to Sri Ramakrishna for the first instance, then Sri Ramakrishna said, Abar Esho. In Bangla, when we take leave, we don't say, I am going. Say, come again. No, when will you come? After go only, you will come. So Sri Ramakrishna says, come again. So that ringed in his mind. So such a beautiful face, and he says, come again. So all those ideas of suicide, etc., vanished, and that contiguous bliss engulfed M, and then he happened to record all those visits and what we get. So in the gospel, Sri Ramakrishna has mentioned nothing new. It is all mentioned in our scriptures. If you squeeze the scriptures, that is what the gospel is all about. And if you squeeze the gospel, what comes out? That is the core message of Sri Ramakrishna. That is, God exists. The goal of this life is to realize God, to develop pure love and devotion to God, and to reduce the impact of our senses on us. That is, to move from a state of freedom of the senses to freedom from the senses, and to make an honest attempt to realize God in this human birth, for which this noble aim is meant for. So I pray to the Lord that may His contagious bliss engulf all of us, and we also receive that state of bliss. Thank you. Namaskar.
Thank you, Swamiji. That was very nice. Now I'd like to invite Swami Sumanasananda to share a few remarks with us.
Jathagnirdahika Shakti Ramakrishna Sthita Hiya Sarvavidya Sarupang Tang Saradang Pranamamaham. Just as the burning power of fire dwells within fire, does she dwell in Ramakrishna. To her, the embodiment of all wisdom, Ma Sharada, we bow down. Pranams to revered Maharaj, and greetings and namaskars to other monastic brothers and sisters and dear devotees. Wonderful day we have been spending right from the morning. Many devotees were very enthusiastic. They came, and some said, we would like to come a little earlier, not at 10 o'clock. Our Swami was telling, yes, come earlier, we will open the shrine, and come around 9:30, no problem. So, from all these talks today, we find so nice speakers we have got, not only amongst our monks, our devotees are also. You see how nicely everyone was expressing their mind and giving a positive note. About gospel, it is said that Master himself said, Misri ruti, soja korei khao or ar korei khao, it will mishti lagbe, it will taste sweet. If you take the cake made of the candy, sugar candy, whenever this side or that side, this corner or that corner, wherever you give a bite, it will give you the taste of sugar, the sweetness. So in the gospel also we found that so many devotees, someone was telling, I was weeping. That is what is necessary. Sri Ramakrishna said, the whole world is, we find that they shed jars of tears. They swim in tears for worldly things, for their near and dear ones, for money, for name and fame, for property, for wealth. But how many are there to shed tears? And Swami Medhananda also was mentioning that just one, not even a full sentence, it is a kind of Sri Ramakrishna Sannidhya sadhana. It is a kind of this reading the gospel. He has not visited Dakshineshwar, but visualizing in his inner mind. Not only it happened with him. Hundreds and thousands of people got in this way, the solace in their life. That is why I thought he will give the meaning of that first mantra he started with. Actually, I wanted to utter another mantra, but Swami Kirtipradananda said, uttered, that is why I avoided that. I chanted Mother's mantra. He started with Kathamritam. Whenever we discuss and read Kathamritam, we begin with that. Tava Kathamritam tapta jivana. I'm not going. Meaning is, your words are like nectar. So many people are hearing. Why everyone is not feeling that it is nectar? No, nectar to those who are burning in this world. Those who are enjoying, let them enjoy. there is a story, everything is in Kathamrita. Maharaj many times, Revered Sarvadhamanji mentions about his gurus, 7th President of the Order, Swami Shankaranandji Maharaj. Any devotee, any chala, any disciple coming and, oh Maharaj, I have read this book, I have read that book, I have read Gospel, but still I don't find any way out. Please give some advice, please, how to. Then Maharaj very indifferently, my dear child, if Master's Gospel could not satisfy your desire and could not show you any path, I am sorry, I cannot show you anything new, because everything is there in that Gospel. If with the real eye, with the real feeling, we read it, it's those who read it, it is like for many, it is like an upannash. Upannash means it is a novel. When we were just youngsters, in our teenage, secretly we used to read this. Father, mother didn't know, but sometimes we were caught up. I have been calling you for food. Oh, what you are reading? Actually, above is there our study books, and below that, not any bad novel. And mostly it was Rabindranath Tagore, mostly Bankim Chandra, about whom today my part was 60th part was with Bankim Chandra. I will come to there. So this Bankim Chandra's novels were very famous and very attractive, very enlightening, enriching. Bankim Chandra was that person who composed that Bande Mataram, that song. It is one of the national anthem. There are two anthems, Jana Gana Mana, and this also equally it is treated in India. So, what I am telling, Sharat Chandra's novel, Bankim Chandra's novel, attractive. You forget, people say, how to love God, how to fix mind in God, how to do our sadhana. Maharaj also says many times that generally what is our meditation? We sit, either after some time we are just dozing or thinking something. People are saying that I am sitting, but where is my mind? Actually, this love for God is something voluntarily, automatically comes when we burn too much in this world. It gives a kind of this layer of ointment, soothing, healing touch to those who have already burnt in this world. So long we are not burning in this world, even Kathamrita, Gospel, Bible, Ved, Upanishad, Gita, about the Swami was talking about this vis-a-vis Gita and Gospel. So nice, everything is there. Nowhere it is contradiction. Rather, these both two books are complementary. In this modern age, through what we don't understand in Bhagavad Gita, and it appears to us very philosophical and a little intellectual, Sri Ramakrishna explains the things in such a way that even a small boy of 5 years can understand. That is Sri Ramakrishna's speciality. The Swami was quoting that Acharyanam sarvadharma sthapakastam sarvadharma sarupakaha acharyanam mahacharya Ramakrishnayate. Now he has not given the meaning, I give the meaning. Meaning is you, the establisher of all dharmas. You are the very embodiment of all dharmas. The great teacher of teachers, to you, Ramakrishna, we bow down. So, great teacher is that he can come down to the level of the taught, to the disciple. And disciple doesn't have any extra question to ask somebody else, that tomorrow I will go to another guru. Our condition is that we say something, but they are not convinced, those who come to meet us mostly. So they search for another one. They are also, actually what they ask, they don't mean that. That is also there. That is why always questioning, going here and there, not getting that joy. Because still there is the desire to enjoy a little. In the Gospel, Master is telling, the small baby is asking, Mother, when I feel the nature's call, see that I don't spoil the bed, and you call me. I will get up and go to the toilet. And the mom is telling, my dear child, I don't need to call you, my dear. When that feeling will come, nature's call, you automatically will get up. It is not that I have to call. So when that automatic yearning for seeing God, feeling the presence of God, we all, in the presence of devotees, we all enjoy. Generally, we should love each and everyone equally, but it is not that possible. Generally, family members, they like their family, they like their children, they love them more. We are sadhus, we have also a spiritual family, but out of us who are Brahmogyanis, they are completely anywhere and everywhere. Everyone, in everyone, they find that presence of that divinity. They love without any hypocrisy, without any distinction. So when these things gradually comes in our life through suffering, and we feel the presence of God anywhere and everywhere, and through all these anecdotes, Sri Ramakrishna's gospel, he was touching everyone. There is everything so nicely presented from the first lecture to everyone our devotees spoke. They are feeling the message, keynote of this wonderful book. Sri Ramakrishna even is telling, Gita, 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 you don't need to read the whole book. Gospel also, you read the whole book, the keynote is there. What is the goal of human life? And how to realize that. In the Gita also, Bhagavan is giving so many yogas. You start this, Arjuna, this is there, Gyan, Bhakti, Karma, Yoga, these, that, so many things are there. Finally, he is telling, if you cannot follow anything, just surrender everything to me. Sarva dharman parityajya mamekam sarang bhajaham tva sarva pavebhyo mokshayishyami masujo. If you cannot do anything, then you get yourself relieved, surrendering everything to me. But only we will give our suffering to God. Revered Bhuteshanji Maharaj used to say, Guru ki ekta dustbin naki, is the Guru your dustbin? Only all the bad things I have done, Guru will take it away, I will enjoy. Enjoy, who has asked you not to enjoy? But don't think that Guru is a dustbin. Don't treat Guru in that way. So wonderful thoughts are there in the whole book, but keynote is there. Are you aware of your goal of life, human life, about which Shankaracharya has said, the durlabhang trayameva etat daivanugraha hetukam manushyattang mumukshattang mahapurusha samsraya. We have got our human body, which is very rare. And we have got this desire also, otherwise why you will be here to the holiday? If people will go to Universal Studio, people will go to Disneyland, I do not know all these names also, the best restaurant here, best hotel here, best bar, best wine shop, beach, so many places are there. But you are not getting joy in that. You have grown a kind of distaste for all these things, and enough is enough. Some people say, Maharaj, you people do not feel that attraction of life. They say, yes, why not? We have finished this in our previous years. It is not that you have to taste everything in this life. I have already passed my 4th grade, 5th grade. Why do I again, I am now sitting in the 6th grade. Why should I read 4th grade, 5th grade books, syllabus there? I have finished that in my previous years. So in our life also, if we think that ordinary enjoyment which people are being attracted to day and night, if we think that enough is enough, we have done all these things, we have achieved, we have enjoyed all this, the best, the greatest things that people are running after, we have enjoyed this in our previous lives. Now this life, let us see what is permanent. All those enjoyment could not give us the permanent solution. Permanent life, eternal bliss, eternal knowledge. And we will not be happy without having this, because all of us are the part of that spark. Eternal existence, bliss, knowledge. This is our real nature. Why we want to have all these things? Because that is our real nature. And Sri Ramakrishna through this book is telling every page almost that yes, goal of human life, don't forget, is not enjoyment only. Today Bankim Chandra's name came. Master was meeting Bankim Chandra and Master would ask everyone, what is the goal of life? Even he was one of the most educated men in the then India, Bankim Chandra. He was the first batch of our magistrate. European people, British people won't allow any Indian to hold that position, magistrate, and pronounce judicial verdict on anybody. And on the white people also, on British people also, they won't allow. But these people are the first batch. They were so intelligent. And from all points of view, they were very genius, versatile geniuses. One of them is this Bankim Chandra. And that Bankim Chandra master met and asking, Acha, what about your goal of life? What do you think? And Bankim Chandra, master was visiting author, one of another magistrate's house, his bestmate friend, and just first time meeting Sri Ramakrishna to test Sri Ramakrishna's life, purity, knowledge, devotion. What is Samadhi? It is all written in the books. Where find out somebody who can tell all these things. Rabindranath Tagore's father, when he was met by Narendranath, and Narendranath asking, sir, have you seen God? Rabindranath Tagore's father also was a guru, and he had been the establisher of one sect there almost. And he was, yo, young man, you appear very intelligent, very nice, very good, not giving directly the answer. If he gives the answer, have you seen God? If he says yes, it becomes a lie. His conscience has grown up, he has done sadhana. He cannot lie now. But at the same time, I am a guru. How can I say I have not seen God? That ego is also there. Egolessness is not there. Still, that is there. Feeling of ego is there. So, avoiding the question. But when same Naren came to Sri Ramakrishna and asking, sir, have you seen God? Young Naren used to go in those days, Dayananda Saraswati, this, that, Keshav Sen, Rabindranath Tagore's father, Ramakrishna. And when Sri Ramakrishna said, yes, I have seen, I can show you also. And afterwards he says, but how many people want to see God? So we are blessed that we have got human birth. We have got the desire to know the truth, go beyond this suffering. We are getting joy in this. That is why we are here. And this is also in the Gita, Bhagavan said, Shana Shana Ruparamit. Gradually it will come to us. If we are on the right track, one day we will find that we have reached the goal, which Sri Ramakrishna has come, has incarnated himself as an avatar, as it were. That Arupa Sayare Lila Lahori Utiche Mridula Kurunabai. That formless principle, as it were, taking a form, as we find in the ocean, that with the help of this Kurunabai, this air, it takes a form of wave. And these avatars are wave, only to show us that, yes, behind everything is that ultimate reality. But seeing God, seeing the wave is also seeing the ocean. And devotees always like to see a rupa, a form, and like to repeat a name. And somebody was immediately got a chance, he sang a song on. Nobody likes, even rishis, munis, they say that yes, thousands of years we are sitting and doing the meditation on the formless. We want to enjoy your, in the Bhagavad it is there, how to enjoy you as our paramour, as our beloved. Well, yes, not now. It will happen in the Dwapar Yuga. These Rishi Munis were born as the bushes, trees, calves in Vrindavana and Mathura to enjoy these gopis also. They are rishis, munis. They had that desire, previous life, dry, sitting, knowledge. Yes, we know that. Sri Ramakrishna says, have the knowledge of Advaita. Then anything and everything you do and enjoy. There is no problem. So in this householder's life also, or in sadhu's life, if we can do all our duties and make a combination of all these yogas as Sri Ramakrishna has shown, that combining all the blending so marvelously, nicely in his life, bhakti is there, karma is there, jnana is there, dhyana is there. If we can, as shown by Sri Ramakrishna, follow all these things, we will also one day find that yes, the goal of human life, we have not forgot it. Sri Ramakrishna said and showed the path also to realize that we will find that yes, ultimately, finally, we have got that what everyone is born for. Let us all have that Sri Ramakrishna's, what I should say, this prayer for all of us, and we may feel that our life is contented, fulfilled. I end my this short talk with Sri Ramakrishna's prayer. O Mother, I throw myself on thy mercy. I take shelter at thy hallowed feet. I do not want bodily comforts. I do not crave name and fame. I do not seek the 8 occult powers. Be gracious and grant that I may have pure love for thee, a love unsmitten by desire, untainted by any selfish ends, a love craved by the devotee for the sake of love alone. And grant me the favor, O Mother, that I may not be deluded by thy world bewitching Maya, that I may never be attached to the world, to lust and gold, conjured up by thy inscrutable Maya. O Mother, there is no one but thee whom I may call my own. Mother, I do not know how to worship. I am without austerity. I have neither devotion nor knowledge. Be gracious, Mother, and out of thy infinite mercy, grant me love for thy lotus feet. Om Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. Sri Ramakrishna Arpanastu.
Thank you, Swamiji. So now I'll ask Swami Sarvadevananda to give us some closing remarks and thoughts. Swamiji.
Nothing to add. You have already soaked in the thought of Sri Ramakrishna's message, and Sri Ramakrishna's contact makes, it is a touchstone. It transforms. As soon as you think of something higher, immediately our mind gets tuned to that consciousness. So this morning, Swami Swahananda Maharaj, he thought that Labor Day we celebrate in different way. So he thought, let us read the Gospel. So that is the way he started here. And he has also Memorial Day, that he thought that that day also he can read something to Swami Vivekananda. So the two unique message, the same message of eternal freedom has been lived and manifested in Dakshineshwar, in Sri Ramakrishna, and that was broadcast through Swami Vivekananda. So we read the entire 9 volumes of Gospel, a great complete works on the Memorial Day, and then he started this. So also we are very glad that we finished the entire book and repeated some sections. And also at the same time, we have about maybe many places in America, in different parts of America, there are groups of devotees. They are also reading the same Gospel, and they are maybe, at least I think that today, at least 10 times Gospel has been read in different places added together. That's the benefit, not that it is thousands of people are associated with it, but the number of devotees who love Ramakrishna and want to change their life they have the opportunity, at least especially. Every day we should read, but many things are there we should. But why do you do? So this is at least we come together to do that. So I thank you all who are here and who are reading online in your home, staying in your home. And let the blessings of Sri Ramakrishna be upon us all. We have beautiful 3 talks. Medhananda Swami in quick time gave wonderful concept of Gospel's impact and how it can be implemented in our life. Also, Kirtipradananda Swami also pointed out beautifully other aspects of the Gospel, and Swami Sumanasananda from another angle. So whatever way, as it is said, that we are whole day, we have spent very nicely. And also this Veena playing, where is Veena Vadak? Here. Thank you for joining us. And will be our blessings, we crave the blessings of Sri Ramakrishna upon us so that our life becomes really meaningful, purposeful. So we end here. And Swami, anything more?
No. Do you have any more? These are not souvenirs. You can't have them all. So if you still have one, please return it.
One book is there with somebody, so please return it, because next year again we'll need them. Okay, so I think that Veena can be, we can listen to Veena for say 10 minutes. Huh? Can we do that? Okay, then we will disperse today. Om Shanti 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 Sri Ramakrishna Arpanamastu.